Welcome everybody to an elite cinematic masterclass where we're going to transform the absolutely tedious chore of chemical stoichiometry into a precise and, dare I say, thrilling science. I am so pumped to be your guide through this explainer today. Now look, if you've ever found yourself just staring at a chemical equation for a solid 30 minutes, erasing and rewriting numbers until your paper literally tears, you are exactly in the right place. Today, we are moving way beyond basic trial and error. So let's establish the incredibly high stakes of our investigation right up front. Atoms are neither created nor destroyed in a chemical reaction. They are simply rearranged. You know it, it's the law of conservation of mass, the completely unbreakable rule of chemistry. I actually want you to think of every unbalanced equation like a crime scene that's violating this law. Our job? It's forensic accounting. We are here to ensure that the exact number of atoms of every single element that enters a reaction on the reactant side flawlessly matches the number that exits on the product side. Here is our syllabus for today. We are going to cover the law of conservation, the minnow strategy, polyatomic ion groups, combustion reactions, the algebraic matrix method, and finally, the 5 fatal errors. All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the law of conservation, the unbreakable rule of chemistry.
Moving right along into Section 2, the minnow strategy. This is going to be your new order of operations.
So a lot of students rely on just random guessing to find their coefficients, right? But that completely falls apart under exam pressure when you're looking at really complex reactions. To stop those frustrating trial and error loops, we use a very structured framework. We call it the minnow inspection method. And it is a strict hierarchy, okay? You balance in this exact order. First, metals, so things like sodium or iron. Second, polyatomic ions. Third, nonmetals like chlorine or sulfur. Fourth, oxygen. And fifth, hydrogen. Now, you might be wondering, why on earth do we save oxygen and hydrogen for the very end? Well, in chemistry, hydrogen and oxygen are notoriously promiscuous. They literally spread out across multiple compounds on one or sometimes both sides of the arrow. If you try to balance them first, you're going to be constantly undoing and redoing your own math. So the pro tip here is to balance the rare elements first and just let the common ones fall into place at the end.
Section 3, polyatomic ion groups and the chunking hack.
Okay. When we start dealing with complex double replacement reactions, I'm talking about things involving phosphates or nitrates, the equations can look absolutely terrifying. But think about the contrast in how you can approach this. The rookie way is to see something like nitrate, NO3, and instantly break it apart in your head, counting the one single nitrogen atom and the 3 separate oxygen atoms. Please do not do this. If that polyatomic ion appears fully intact on both sides of your equation, you got to use the Dr. Chem way. Treat that entire nitrate group as one single unbreakable block. Actually, one of our sources even recommends physically drawing a colored circle right around the polyatomic ion on your paper. If you have 2 NO3 groups on the left, you just need 2 NO3 groups on the right. By chunking them as single units like this, you completely bypass doing complex multiplication with oxygen atoms, and you can balance the whole thing in seconds. Let's hit Section 4. Combustion reactions and the CHO method. So, when we pivot specifically to hydrocarbons reacting with oxygen, we're actually going to abandon minnow off entirely and strictly use CHO. You rigidly balance your carbon first, then your hydrogen, and finally your oxygen. But here's where we hit a really common trapdoor. You balance your carbons, great. You balance your hydrogens, awesome. And then you finally get to oxygen. But what happens when balancing your oxygen on the product side leaves you with an odd number, and that totally clashes with the diatomic oxygen gas, O2, sitting on the reactant side? Let's break down butane combustion as an example. Butane is C4H10. Following our CHO method, 4 carbons mean we need 4 CO2 molecules. 10 hydrogens mean we need 5 H2O molecules. Now let's count up the oxygen products. 4 CO2 gives us 8 oxygen atoms. 5 H2O gives us 5. 8 plus 5 is 13 oxygen atoms needed in total. But remember, oxygen gas is O2. Nature only hands it out in pairs. So mathematically, we initially require an impossible 6.5 oxygen molecules. And obviously, there's no way you can have half a molecule in a final balanced equation. So what is the trick to fix this? It's honestly incredibly simple. You just accept the fraction temporarily, put it in there, then you multiply the entire equation's coefficients by 2. Just double the whole shebang. That 6.5O2 becomes a beautifully clean 13O2. The 1 butane becomes 2. The 4 CO2 becomes 8, and the 5 water becomes 10. Boom! Fraction eliminated, and the conservation of mass is perfectly maintained.
All right, brace yourselves for Section 5, the algebraic matrix method. This right here is the boss level.
Now, sometimes your standard inspection methods just entirely fail. You could be dealing with some truly complex redox reactions or equations where multiple compounds contain the exact same elements spread everywhere. For this kind of stuff, we need to bring in the heavy mathematical machinery. As one of our sources perfectly notes, when you get to this level, balancing chemical reactions isn't actually chemistry anymore, it's just pure linear algebra. So here is how we set it up. Instead of just guessing numbers, we are going to treat all the unknown coefficients as algebraic variables. Let's call them x1, x2, x3, and x4. You then write out a linear equation for each individual element. So for example, if compound x1 has 2 carbons and product compound x3 has 1 carbon, your equation for carbon is just simply 2 times x1 equals 1 times x3. What you end up with is a system of simultaneous linear equations. And by applying the Gauss elimination method, which is detailed wonderfully in this paper from Scientific Research Publishing, you can convert all your chemical variables right into a matrix that can be systematically solved. The absolute beauty of this mathematical approach is that it guarantees a solution. Seriously, if a chemical reaction is physically feasible out there in the real world, it generates a vector space, and this matrix math will unconditionally yield the correct, balanced coefficients for you without a single moment of guesswork. And that finally brings us to Section 6, the 5 fatal errors, or as I call them, the balancing trapdoors.
We pulled these insights directly from one of our expert Spanish sources, La Química de Yamil, and I'm telling you, they are universally applicable. Let's just drill right through them. Number 1 is by far the deadliest sin, changing subscripts instead of coefficients. Listen, if you need 2 oxygens in water, H2O, you absolutely cannot just write H2O2. That literally, legally alters the chemical identity, turning your harmless drinking water into toxic hydrogen peroxide. Always change the large coefficients in the front. Error 2 is incorrectly counting your initial atoms. Just make a careful list, take your time. Error 3 is forgetting that a coefficient multiplies the entire formula, not just that very first element in the compound. Error 4, which we touched on earlier, is the massive trap of balancing hydrogen or oxygen first. Just don't do it. And Error 5, thinking you are done without doing a recount. Always perform a final forensic audit of your left and right sides to ensure absolutely perfect balance.
Wow. Okay, we've covered a whole lot of ground in this explainer today. From the strict, rigid rules of the minnow strategy to that awesome visual hack of chunking your polyatomic ions, the CHO combustion trick for fractions, and of course, the absolute, undeniable certainty of the algebraic matrix method. You don't have to rely on trial and error anymore. You have a full systematic arsenal at your disposal. So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder. Which weapon are you going to deploy the next time you face down a massive complex equation on your chemistry exam? Use these tools, trust your process, and I promise you, you'll never be intimidated by an unbalanced equation ever again.